So, the time has come. Cold Steel 3 has released in the West and Ys 9 has released in Japan. It's been a big month for Falcom and fans alike, and during that time it's obvious that... It's been a pretty big month for Falcom and fans alike, and during that time it's obvious that Kondo has been getting involved in a slew of interviews. So let's look at some of the key points and where he and Falcom intend to take the Trails series and their other titles into the future. Let's go. I think we can all safely say that Cold Steel 3 has been a success. The 4's military edition of the game pretty much sold out, and there's been a lot of exposure that has translated to people either getting interested or playing the game outright. I myself have the game in hand, but unfortunately have a dead PS4 which needs to be repaired, so I need to wait a bit longer till I can join in on the fun. But from the 3 hours I did manage to play, I found myself highly invested, immersed, and most importantly, enjoying it. For the West, this is the biggest Trails game so far, not only in terms of where it sits in the overarching story, but also in its physical content. Cold Steel 3 alone has a total of 1.6 million Japanese characters. Compare that to The Lord of the Rings plus The Hobbit, which only has a total of 570,000 words. And despite the size of it, it appears NISA have done a stellar job in localizing the game, even offering dual audio, which is something XSEED chose never to go ahead with in previous titles. Based on the reception for Cold Steel 3 and the sales of Ys 9, which sold over 45,000 units in its first week, I wouldn't be surprised to hear Falcom state that they have hit their financial targets for the year come the December shareholder meeting. Now, as for the future, we have Cold Steel 3, and from what I've been told, it has quite a stark cliffhanger ending. Think Trails in the Sky first chapter, but even more gripping. If this ending is as impactful as people are making it out to be, then I might even buy the Japanese edition of Cold Steel 4 and use the spreadsheet translation that the subreddit have so kindly shared. It goes without saying that if you've played Cold Steel 3, you must play Cold Steel 4, which Kondo has said himself in an interview with Push Square. I'd like to think that come December we might get an idea as to the localization of End of Saga, as I imagine pushing into the Western markets is still a large part of the corporate strategy going on at Falcom, and with the pushing power of NISA as a partner, I think the productive capability to localize the games has only increased. Now moving on, we already know that a new arc is in the making, which will be taking place in Eastern Zemuria, and if you want to find out more, I did a video on this about 3 months ago just after the 15th anniversary livestream. While being asked about this title, Kondo stated a rough estimate as to when he expects the Trails series to end. As of now, he believes that the series has another 20 years within it, which I guess makes sense as it's taken 15 years to get to where we are now, and with all of the unknown areas situated in the east, it's understandable that a lot more content needs to come out to flesh out the world of Zemuria. Now, even though an estimated 2 decades of Trails is only a good thing for fans, I do have a couple of issues with this statement, minor worries if anything else. First of all, fans can't deny that the barrier to entry for Trails is very high compared to the likes of say Dragon Quest or Tales of games. Trails of Cold Steel 3, for example, is the 8th title in the main series, and 7 games worth of content beforehand is quite a hefty chunk to play through in order to get the full narrative. Though I personally love this style of storytelling, it's clear that this structure will not work for everyone, as it can indeed be difficult to initially get hooked. Though I'm a person who suggests you should play all the titles before playing Cold Steel 3, and I will never change that mindset, if playing the likes of Cold Steel 3 can get more people invested in the series, then that can only be a good thing. My fear is that as we go further into Trails with new arcs, new stories, and start to unravel more of the overarching narrative, the potential hook to bring newcomers in will become less and less effective, as there's a chance that the story being told in these latest entries will be drawing on past events even more so than say Cold Steel 3 is, meaning the experience for newcomers is just going to lack that smack moment to get them into Trails in the first place. However, I do feel that Falcom has a method by which they keep their newer titles relevant as a potential starting point, something that they're already utilising at the moment. For example, I still maintain that Cold Steel 1 is a solid start point for any new player, as it feels standalone enough by introducing us to new characters and a new land, with only minor references to other titles. If Falcom does something similar to this with the initial games in their newer arcs, maintaining that balance of satisfying the veterans of the series with nods to other titles, which gives reward to those who have played the games prior, while also keeping these oblique enough in their delivery that they will still allow a new player to enjoy the experience too, then I think this will allow the series and fanbase to grow even more. Of course, striking that balance is the most difficult part. As for my second concern, it relates to series burnout. It's no secret that I, like many others, love the Trail series. It's my favourite series of games and nothing else comes close. However, I said this about the likes of World of Warcraft when I still played MMOs. I was playing Burning Crusade and I thought I would play that game forever. Come Cataclysm, I stopped completely after feeling that I was witnessing the same events occur time and time again, and I haven't gone back since. It's not just games either. The likes of the Wheel of Time books by Robert Jordan also became a real slog for me come the 7th book, before they eventually ended on a high with the beast that is Brandon Sanderson. My question is, can Falcom continue to come up with novel and fresh ideas for another 20 years? I will admit I am a bit concerned about this, but I do have faith that Falcom will make this work, as I'm confident they have had a plan for this series since its inception. The writers at Falcom are some of the most gifted people around, being able to bring sprawling worlds to life, create compelling character arcs, and give a meaningful payoff to every story they weave. At this point, it would take one heck of a cock-up for me to feel that Falcom have failed to make a compelling title. And with the culture of care and pride they have in their games, I expect this to continue for the future. I discovered this series in my mid-20s, it's one of my greatest loves in gaming, and I'd like to think that come my mid-40s, that love will still remain stronger than ever. Now finally, at the end of the interview with Push Square, Kondo was asked about one game he would like to come to the West, to which he replied, "Yes, there's a game called Naruto No Kiseki. I'd like to see that come out in the West." So what is Naruto no Kiseki, or as we might know it in English, Endless Trails? Released in July 2012 for the PSP, Naruto is an action RPG that takes place on a landmass known as Renman Island. We join Naruto Herschel, an amateur astronomer, and his close friend Signa Al-Hazan as they try to discover the mysteries of the star fragments that continuously fall from the skies. By looking at them in a certain way and shining light upon their form, people are able to see the world of Lost Heaven, an alternate reality with flora, fauna, and natural beauty that doesn't befit the world in which Renman Island exists. Along with the star fragments, ruins fall from the skies 1 to 3 times per year, and it just so happens upon Naruto's return after a 4-month semester at the academy that a larger than normal structure falls from the sky. From here they discover a suspicious duo, a fairy who is clearly not of this world, and the existence of gates that can transport oneself from Renman Island to a land known as Terra, a land which quickly is identified as the Lost Heaven that Naruto's father tried to find years prior. With their new fairy companion now in tow, Naruto and Signa resolve to help the otherworldly being in order to stop the strange happenings going on in Terra, thus beginning a new journey. Now the question that a lot of people will ask, is Naruto canon to the main series of Trails? Is it interwoven into the overarching narrative that we're currently experiencing? Well, honestly, it's a grey area at the moment. A lot of people consider it to be a spin-off and totally unrelated to the main series. In fact, people consider it to be more akin to a successor for the Spy games, And though I haven't played Sphy 1 or 2, I can definitely say that Naruto is not like any other Trails game. In fact, it reminds me more of the style of Ys Origins or Ofenfelgana, being able to jump, dodge, hack, slash, and complete missions. However, others will point to the similarities between Naruto and the other Trails games, for example the use of Mira as a currency and the use of Selg as a measuring metric to suggest it might indeed be canon. Of these theorists, some consider it to be an alternate universe while others see it as based in the same world of Zemuria but set far into the past, even before the Great Collapse. Put it this way, the game hasn't been confirmed as canon, but it also has not been confirmed as canon. And interestingly, I recently had a small chat with a fellow Trails Twitter user and he mentioned something intriguing. In the 5th volume of the Naruto No Kiseki magazine, there is a mention of Naruto in one of its excerpts, and the content in particular might suggest that it is in fact part of the Trails universe. Unfortunately, I can only go off word of mouth here as I haven't read this magazine due to spoilers for Sen 4, and if you haven't played the game yet, I would suggest not to try and clarify this for the time being. But if you're feeling brave, then have a look at the link provided in the description. But that is indeed exciting news to think that Naruto, potentially in a future arc, could be brought into the fold of the main series. The possibility is there, but for now, we'll just have to accept that this mystery will remain unsolved for now. Now this initially was going to be the end of the video guys, but on Wednesday evening, UK time, we actually got an ominous tweet from Falcom themselves. It showed a pimped out ring underneath the statement, Ashita, which means tomorrow in Japanese. And come Thursday morning, it appeared that that tweet was in relation to Falcom's financial report for the year, so how well they've done for this fiscal year which ends in September 2019. Now for me this is really interesting because I work in finance, so looking at sales, looking at profits and revenues and the geographical breakdown of where they actually come from is actually another hobby of mine, especially for a company that I love. So let's have a quick look at what Falcom have stated in their financial report, how well they've done for the year, and let's also look at what their plans are to try and push that revenue forward in the future. From looking at the figures, it's quite clear that Falcom have done very well this year, partly due to Cold Steel 3's Western release, the release of Ys 9 in Japan, and the likes of Chinese and Korean editions of Cold Steel 1 and 2. We also got the ports of Cold Steel 1 and 2 to the PlayStation 4 with the Relentless and Definitive editions in the West, which also boosted the numbers. However, my interest came from the regional breakdown of sales. If you look at this table, you can see on the left, Nihon, or Japan, leads the way for the majority of sales revenue, which is to be expected. Next to that you have Asia with the likes of Korea and China, but then look at that final column. Hokube, which is North America, and Orshu, which is Europe, represent 16.8% of Falcom's total sales for this fiscal year. For reference, in terms of proportional sales, that's an 8.1% increase from the previous year, as sales from North America and Europe combined from 2018 only amounted to 7.63% of their total revenue. That is a massive jump, and it can only be good for the Western fans as Falcom is starting to realise that there is a huge opportunity to expand their revenue base by breaking into the likes of North America and Europe. I wouldn't be surprised to see this figure rise in the future as well, especially if there is more support for Western releases. Now generally, Falcom will release one major title at the end of the fiscal year, at least this is what the trends suggest. In September 2017 it was Cold Steel 3, 2018 it was Cold Steel 4, and finally in 2019 it was Ys 9. In the report, Falcom confirmed that the next big title will be released as part of the Trails series. Now some people think this might be related to the new arc, but I wouldn't think this is going to be the case. I imagine that this release will most likely be the Gaiden style title that is tying in with Cold Steel 4, mostly because I believe Falcom want to tie up all loose ends relating to Cold Steel before making the leap to the new arc, and we do already have confirmation that half of their team is working on this as we speak. In other announcements, they state that they're also aiming to bring some more of their current titles to other platforms, most notably the PlayStation 4 with the release of Kai versions, which might be a potential gripper for people eager to play the Crossbow arc on a modern console. I imagine though we'll get more information come the shareholder meeting in December, so as said before, all we can do now is wait. And honestly, that's it guys. There's not much more that I can have to say. I think those are the biggest points that have come up in the past like 2 months or so in regards to Falcon and the news. Put simply, it's been a very exciting time, you know, exciting new prospects, new games, and also the fact that we've been getting some awesome new special editions like the Force Military Edition, which I hope you have. And honestly, with all of this good news and all of these good prospects coming forward, I'm expecting to get a bit more information come December with the shareholder meeting and what we're going to be seeing from that. And honestly, if they do more special editions like this one, then, you know, I'm going to buy them, I'm going to add them to my collection, and I'm also going to support Falcon with it, because these are awesome. Talking about the Force Military Edition, it's just occurred to me that there is actually someone who could tell us whether Naruto is canon or not. Give me a second. Alright, here he is, special guest appearance. So, Mishi, you've been in Naruto No Kiseki, so can you tell us, canon or not canon?
I want you off the f***ing set, you prick!